Hello everyone, this is Crypto Bit Law, here with another blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to give a general overview of a lot of the big ticket issues regarding the Celsius bankruptcy filing. But before we dive in, please, if you like the content, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, let's jump right on in. Alright, so as I think most everyone in the crypto sphere knows at this point, Celsius, the infamous CeFi lender, recently filed for bankruptcy. And so there's a lot of speculation and a lot of talk and just kind of general uncertainty going around as to what this means, what's going to happen, what it means for the end users that got their funds locked into the protocol. And so we're just going to do kind of like a general roundup of a lot of the big ticket items that have been kind of circulating around the major crypto rags, and then do a little bit of diving into the actual pleadings and see what we can unearth. All right, so we'll start here with a Cointelegraph article. It states, Celsius lawyers claim users gave up legal rights to their crypto. And so this kind of harkens back to that good old crypto adage, not your keys, not your coins. And here we can kind of see one of the de facto implementations of that timeless maxim. They say lawyers for the bankrupt crypto lender reaffirmed that users' funds essentially belonged to the company and not the user, with potentially one major exception. And as you would imagine, that type of language that the lawyers are arguing, kind of subrogated the lender, Celsius. It subrogated the rights of the users of their crypto to the lender, Celsius. That was buried deep within the terms of service. So let's read a little more and see about this. Celsius's 1.7 million registered users across over 100 countries gave up title to the crypto they deposited into earn and borrow accounts, according to the firm's lawyers. At the first bankruptcy hearing for Celsius on Monday, lawyers from the Kirkland law firm, led by Pat Nash, detailed how retail users with earn and borrow accounts transferred the title of their coins to the firm as per its terms of service. Just like we just said, just called this out, it was buried into the TOS. As a result, Celsius is free to, quote, use, sell, pledge, and rehypothecate those coins as it wishes. And here we could see key business segments from the retail sections of the terms of service for Celsius accounts, as it pertains to the earn program, the borrow program, and the custody program. Custody title remains with the customer, and Celsius cannot use coins without instructions. Borrow program, borrowers were able to choose from different loan products based on LTV ratios. Title of the coins is transferred to Celsius, and Celsius is entitled to use, sell, pledge, and rehypothecate those coins. And similar for the earn program. Under the terms of use, the title to the coins is transferred to Celsius, and Celsius is entitled to use, sell, pledge, and rehypothecate those coins. Well, a lot of you might be asking, hey, that's not very fair. Who actually reads these terms of services? And I would agree, to an extent with that. I remember the only time I ever did anything like this, it was with the Gemini Earn program, and they were offering like 7% on Doge. And I deposited a little bit of Doge there and got 7% just to kind of test it out. But the funny thing is that in all of the Dogecoin, subreddits and all of the, community-led content, they highlighted the fact that within those Gemini Earn terms of service, there was similar language where it says, hey, we could lose these funds and we're not liable for it, and you'd be, SOL in a sense. And so needless to say, I only spent like a week in that program before it just became too much for me. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with this. Not your keys, not your coins. So let's continue on. They say, however, a legal question has arisen about whether custody account holders retain the title for their assets. Celsius Terms of Service claims that the firm cannot use coins in custody accounts without the user's permission. Still, lawyers questioned whether this holds for crypto that the firm is currently in possession of. In their overview of the case, they asked, quote, are the crypto assets in Celsius's possession property of the estate? Is the answer to this question different for crypto assets held under the custody versus the earn program? The custody program was launched in April for non-accredited United States investors, as some states across the U.S. issued cease and desist orders on Celsius's earn program. Celsius paused rewards and withdrawals for all users on June 13th, and have since paused margin calls, liquidations, and issuing new loans. Attorney David Silver summed up Celsius's claim to users' funds in a Monday tweet. He wrote that users should, quote, stop thinking of it as, quote, your crypto, because technically it all belongs to the firm. And here's a funny little meme, and we kind of get the gist of what he was saying. And, that's based in large part on the language that we saw in the terms of service that we reviewed earlier. They say, according to a tweet from the Financial Times reporter Kadim Shuber, Nash proclaimed that Celsius's users would be, quote, interested in riding out this crypto winter and let Celsius hold funds rather than sell. He added that this strategy would allow users the opportunity to, quote, realize their recovery through an appreciation in the crypto macro environment. Essentially, Celsius would like to wait for the market to turn around before selling to ensure it can stay afloat, then pay off users with assets that have more value. The firm also claims that it could sell Bitcoin that it mines through its subsidiary mining operations to pay off debts. Celsius CEO Alex Mashinsky affirmed in a bankruptcy filing document that his company planned to generate about 15,000 Bitcoin through 2023, but David Silver was dubious about the claim. Silver appeared to Twitter Space after the hearing concluded. At about the 107 mark in the conversation, he stated that Celsius's claim of being a Bitcoin mining company is disingenuous. Quote, can you imagine right now that Patrick Nash, basically, and the Kirkland lawyers have now told you that Celsius is simply a Bitcoin mining company? Because that's all fluff. And I can't help but agree with that sentiment. I mean, who are we to trust these people? You had Mashinsky out there telling everybody to unbank themselves, unbank yourself, don't trust the banks, when in reality they're the ones that are FDIC insured, and then he rug pulls all his customers. Would you really trust this guy on anything that he says going forward? I certainly wouldn't. All right, well, let's turn to the next issue. As we can see here, it's a nice bullet point recap of just kind of like a general rundown on a lot of the big Celsius-related headlines from CryptoNews.com. They say, during its own bankruptcy hearing, lawyers explained that Celsius owes 500,000 creditors over $5 billion US. Proceedings got underway yesterday with advocates representing the firm submitting a detailed document on the company's financial status in court. The firm is filing for a, quote, reorganization bankruptcy, which is a bid to temporarily halt civil cases from creditors, giving the company the breathing space it needs to rearrange its finances and finally repay debts. So, as you've probably no doubt figured out, under this type of bankruptcy proceeding, any civil cases or civil causes of actions that debtors would have, or that creditors rather would have against the debtor, which is Celsius, those would all be stayed, right? So, you couldn't actually proceed in a claim against Celsius if they rug pulled you, if they actually go through with this bankruptcy that they filed. Continuing on, they say Pat Nash, Celsius's lead attorney, has effectively asked creditors to take a long-term view and wait for market prices to recover. That's what we were talking about earlier, waiting out the crypto winter. He explained that the company's mining arm is minting about 14.2 Bitcoin per day and is looking to scale up its operations. Oh, shit. Per a Financial Times reporter covering the case, Nash stated, quote, the vast majority of our customers are going to be interested in riding out the crypto winter. Already went over that. Celsius's assets do not amount to much. This is important. The firm has about $170 million worth of fiat holdings, and it's owed some $620 million. There was some of that 3AC contagion tied up into this, but has about $720 million worth of mining hardware, much of which has fallen in price as of late. It has about $450 million worth of, quote, other assets, as well as considerable amounts of its own cell token. And that's one of the things that kind of struck me as hilarious. When they actually filed, a cap table, a spreadsheet, if you will, of a lot of their assets, their debts and liabilities and assets, they listed the cell token that they held as one of their assets to the tune of, I forgot how many millions of dollars worth of the cell token they have. When there's, Lord can only imagine, what the actual liquidity on that would be. But it was just comical seeing the cell token kind of filed as an asset in that proceeding. In a section named, quote, key legal questions, the lawyers wrote ominously, perhaps for Celsius customers still unable to withdraw their funds, quote, The crypto assets in Celsius possession property of the estate. What does it mean to unimpair a crypto claim or to pay a crypto claim in full? They also mused, quote, are customers entitled to the return of crypto in kind? Twitter-based legal experts have claimed that the firm may try to prove that Celsius is not legally obliged to return funds to its earned customers. The lawyer, David Silver, wrote, quote, Celsius says that anyone in the earn program has no crypto that belongs to them. In other words, stop thinking of the crypto as your crypto, just like we went over earlier. Meanwhile, as of 7:31 on Tuesday morning, the Cell token was down 1.4% in a day and up nearly 12% in a week, trading at about 79 cents. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so as we can see here, this article goes over the recovery plan that was introduced during the bankruptcy hearing, and it goes over the fact that they prepared this presentation outlining their plans to recover funds, and if you're interested, we could see it right here. It begins, it's an in-ray hearing, or proceeding rather, and it's Celsius Network, LLC. And it's out of the Southern District of New York. It's bankruptcy court. Here's the assets snapshot. And like we were talking about earlier, they have the Cell token listed as, oh my lord, this is in millions. So 2,210. Wow. So it just kind of gives like a general overview of what they hold, just general definitions on, what all these different terms are, DeFi, lending, that sort of thing, a general plan. So they paused the withdrawals. Yeah, this is, they mentioned the Luna thing. They got wrapped up in that, of course. Key terminology. So this is for blockchain noobs. Interesting little presentation for, I guess, laypersons to figure out key legal issues critical to the outcome of this case. Let's see what these are. Are the crypto assets held in Celsius possessions property of the estate? We went over that one. What does it mean to unimpair a crypto claim? Are customers entitled return? We went over all of this. What Celsius entities do customers have a claim against? And that's because, a lot of, Celsius as a business organization was bifurcated into a bunch of different entities, like Celsius. There were a bunch of different derivations of the Celsius name in different business entities, whether they be LLCs or corporations, kind of separated that did different things, whether it was lending or earning or technology based, that sort of thing. So there was a lot of bifurcation going on. So it's kind of really tough to decipher which one of these Celsius related entities you would actually have a claim against if you were a creditor. Do retail, institutional, and borrowers have a set-off right? Can Celsius recover customer withdrawals or loan liquidations completed in the 90 days before filing as preferences? Okay. So yeah, for those of you that want to check out this is going to be linked in the description below. So this is pretty important here. This is the declaration of Alex Mashinsky, the Chief Executive Officer, as we all know, of Celsius Network, LLC. There we go. That's another one of those kind of bifurcated legal entities that they used. In support of the Chapter 11 petitions and first day motions. So, pretty much now Celsius is trying to convince the court to grant them a Chapter 11 bankruptcy and pretty much stay all these other alternative causes of actions and proceedings that are pending against them, right, so that they can reorganize and hopefully get the ball rolling again, which, I don't know, if the more that you dig into this, it's just a total mess, right? So let's just kind of go over, this is a pretty long document, but we'll go over kind of like the bigger kind of topics, subtopics, that sort of thing. So they give an overview here. We start with the introduction, an overview of the operation. It operates in more than 100 countries. They deal in cryptocurrency. At the time of its founding, crypto suffered an illiquidity problem, yada, yada, yada. Just how Celsius started. Events leading to the Chapter 11. Okay, so there were many liabilities that came to happen. We get to where they discuss what happened with the Terra run and UST stablecoin debacle. And then they describe the onset of the crypto winter, which I guess we're currently in the middle of going through. And The fact that they customers started to do a run on the bank where they started withdrawing their funds in mass. Then they hired restructuring attorneys, and then they go over their assets and liabilities right here. Then they go over a background of what cryptos are, crypto and the blockchain, their daily operations, what Bitcoin is, what Ethereum is, mining and staking, decentralized finance or DeFi, the history of their operations beginning in 2018 when they started through spring of 2022 when things started to hit the fan. They did customer inflows and outflows, and we can kind of see the overall crescendo and then decrescendo of how that played out. Financial services, buy, swap, and earn services. The Cell token, where they kind of started up their own, sub Ponzi. Borrowing and lending, Celsius mining, other deployment activities. There's an interesting part in here. I think it's getting towards page 37. What do we see? On a separate crypto exchange, FTX, the company held an additional $180 million loan collateralized by $403 million in digital assets. Maker, Aave, Compound, so they were on all of these DeFi programs, just totally degenning out. They engaged in market making. Quote, for this strategy, Celsius held both short and long positions, ensuring market neutrality in a manner that allowed Celsius to benefit from inefficiencies in the future markets. They engaged in swing trading, funding, GK8. They acquired the company GK8, which is designed to provide a secure institutional digital asset self-custody technology platform for institutional clients. Their patented technology utilizes industry's, quote, cold vault, which can create, sign, and send blockchain transactions without connecting to the internet. Huh? Moreover, this patented technology is paired with proprietary multi-party computation to achieve cold security with hot functionality. That just sounds like a bunch of buzzwords. I mean, does that even make sense? I mean, how could you operate on the blockchain without even really, broadcasting and connecting to the internet? That just doesn't really make sense to me, but who's to say? Their pre-petition corporate and capital structure, turbulent market conditions. Well, yeah, the onset of COVID-19. Then we had a nice big up and down, Federal Reserve increasing federal funds rate. Okay, the Terra Luna collapse. Well, we all know what happened with that. And then the domino effect after the Terra collapse. Then they go on to, complain about Three Arrows Capital. Okay. And then Voyager. All right, sounds about right. The depegging of staked ether. All right, so now we're getting onto the Lido. Staked ether issue. Misleading media coverage. Okay, now we're getting to the point of, let's see. Okay, Tether. This is interesting right here. Let's see what they have to say about Tether. Okay. In May and June of 2022, Celsius made the difficult decision to forego providing one of its lenders, Tether, issuer of USDT, a stablecoin, additional collateral, and agreed to an orderly liquidation of its loan. During the market crash, Tether issued a margin call to Celsius with regard to an outstanding $841 million USDT loan. Although Celsius had always provided sufficient collateral to support its loan and had never previously been liquidated by Tether, the company agreed to an orderly liquidation and settlement of its loan with Tether to preserve the remaining collateral in excess of the loan value. This resulted in a loss of approximately, just a measly $97 million. By mid-June, the amount of the company's liquid assets and the dollar value of all remaining assets had decreased so significantly that Celsius lost the ability to continue borrowing stablecoins and thus lost the ability to maintain the magnitude of crypto assets necessary to match crypto liabilities. Moreover, because the company earns yield in digital assets, but its expenses are mostly denominated in fiat currency, such a dramatic reduction in the dollar value of its crypto income created a further spread that hindered the company's recovery plan. They got wrecked. As a result, Celsius believed the best course of action was to put a pause on withdrawals to slow down the, quote, run on the bank. Okay. So this is where they get into, they talk about coin flex here, the ins and the outs of the pause and pretty much rug pulling all of their clients, the retail depositors. And so, key file litigation, these Chapter 11 cases in the next step. The Chapter 11 cases provide the debtors and the company as a whole with the best opportunity to stabilize its business, consummate a comprehensive restructuring transaction that maximizes value for all stakeholders, and emerge from Chapter 11 positioned for success in the crypto industry. To date, the company has taken significant strides to preserve assets by stopping its traditional asset deployment strategies. Dude, you can't even deploy anything because you're wrecked. I just... it kind of almost hurts to read this. Here's a copy of the corporate organizational structure. So for those of you that are curious about how they bifurcated all these different companies, at the top is Celsius Network Incorporated, which is a Delaware corporation. As we've referred to in the past, Delaware is pretty much the jurisdiction of choice for a lot of these major corporate entities. Facebook, Meta. I guess those are the same thing now. Google, Alphabet, Twitter, a lot of these different companies, they'll incorporate in Delaware because they are notoriously the most favorable jurisdiction in the United States to corporate business entities, right? They really are the most progressive when it comes to kind of pushing forward any sort of corporate business law. And they have the Delaware Court of Chancery, which is, I guess, the de facto industry standard, if you will, when it comes to any sort of high-profile business litigation. As a lot of you may recall, Twitter just filed suit against Elon Musk. Guess where they did it? In Delaware, right? And so a lot of this, big-time corporate litigation plays out in Delaware. So it's no surprise here that Celsius and a lot of its subsidiaries, boom, Celsius Networks Lending, Celsius Holdings, Celsius Network, Celsius Lending, Celsius Mining, Celsius KeyFi, are all Delaware corporations, right? And so, there's just some more, this is interesting. Top unsecured creditors. So we see here, oh my lord, $81 million for Pharaoh's Fund, liquidated or unliquidated. Man, there's a lot of unsecured creditors here. Alameda's in there. It's funny, the email on point for Alameda is sam@alamedresearch.com. Invictus Capital. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. All right, so where are we now? Based on what we've learned and based on what we've kind of unearthed through a lot of these different articles and pleadings and declarations and what's been brought to light is that this situation is an absolute mess. Celsius is trying their best in order to try to get through this Chapter 11, get into Chapter 11, put a stay on all of these ancillary proceedings that are out there from PO'd investors that are, upset, rightfully so, that they got rugged and that are trying to get access to their funds. But as we could see, there's a lot of different issues going on. As was noted, like Celsius lawyers maintain, even though you gave them, Celsius, you as a retail investor gave Celsius your coins with the promise of getting yield and I guess the promise of getting your coins back when you want to withdraw them. They in fact were not your coins. You actually granted title of them to Celsius, so Celsius's lawyers claim, right? Or so if you did that, you actually kind of agreed to in the terms of service that no one reads. So there's that issue to settle out. There's the issue of whether or not the court agrees with the fact that they being Celsius, have a legitimate plan in order to get out of this whole mess. And right now they're claiming, hey, we can get like 14.5 Bitcoin a day with our mining wing. But can we really believe that? I mean, is that really true? I mean, do they have the receipts to back that up? Is the plan legit? Would you trust Alex Mashinsky again on face value for what he's saying now, despite everything that's been unearthed about what happened in the past? King Grifter over here, Alex? I don't know. And even if that all happens, right, then there's the issue of, okay, in what order are these creditors going to get paid back? Who even gets paid back? If so, how much? And then the timeline. I mean, this is going to take a long time to play out. I'm thinking years, probably at the very least. I mean, if we know one thing about litigation, it's probably one of the longest, most drawn-out processes in all business. So, all I can say right now, I mean, this whole thing is a mess, and my heart goes out to anybody that got wrapped up in this. It's just, I think it's many lessons needed to be learned. Not your keys, not your coin. A lot of what happened, went against a lot of the ethos and a lot of, kind of the structural maxims behind why crypto was invented, in order to eliminate counterparty risk, in order to hold a bearer asset, in order to, essentially get rid of this type of crap. But, people, I don't know if it's greed or just ignorance, they want to, it's that, old cliche, you want to pick up pennies in front of freight trains, and it's just not worth it in the end. And so what I think here we're seeing is, a lot of, it's kind of like a hurricane. It needs to wash this cycle, this bear market, this crypto winter needs to wash a lot of this crap away, a lot of this degeneracy of these incestuous relationships between these lenders, these crypto hedge funds like 3AC, all kind of interacting and levering up to the T with each other, just doing these completely degenerate bets that the market will go up forever. And then, you take away one, piece of the puzzle, one piece of the structure, if you will, and the whole thing kind of collapses like a house of cards. And what we're seeing right now is, I guess, the inevitable, kind of witnessing of the dust cloud settle and what's left, and everybody trying to pick up the pieces. But I guess all in all, I think that this is going to take time. It's going to be interesting to see. I think ultimately, I mean, if I had to go out on a limb, I think it's honestly too early to predict whether or not they'll get this Chapter 11. Who knows? Who knows? And anybody that tells you definitively one way or the other, that's just speculation. So if there's one thing I do know, it's that this is going to take time. If Celsius depositors are going to be made whole, that's going to be the tune to pennies on the dollar. I can guarantee that. And one thing I'm sure of is that you shouldn't trust anything that comes out of Mashinsky's mouth or his attorneys. The whole situation, it's a mess. But it's interesting to say the least, and I guess to that end, we will keep you updated as this situation evolves on any new pertinent updates related to this situation. And so with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this content and you learned something from it. Lord knows I did. And so, on that note, thanks for watching. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And thank you again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.